7 seconds. That is all the time you have to make a first impression on someone you meet for the first time. Not 7 minutes, not 7 hours. 7 seconds. In those 7 seconds, the person standing in front of you has already formed a judgment about your intelligence, your trustworthiness, your confidence, and yes, your attractiveness. And here is the part that will really blow your mind. Once that judgment is formed, it is almost impossible to change. So what exactly is happening in those 7 seconds? And how can you use the science of first impressions to completely transform your dating life? Let's find out. Welcome to Psychology of Love, where we decode the science behind attraction, relationships, and human connection. Today we are diving deep into one of the most studied and most misunderstood areas of social psychology, the science of first impressions in dating. Whether you are going on a first date, meeting someone at a social event, or even matching with someone on a dating app, the psychology of first impressions is working, whether you understand it or not. So let's make sure you understand it. Let's start with what is actually happening neurologically when you meet someone for the first time. The moment you encounter a new person, your brain immediately activates two key regions, the amygdala and the posterior cingulate cortex. The amygdala is your brain's threat detection system. It is scanning the new person almost instantaneously, asking, is this person safe or dangerous, friend or threat? Simultaneously, the posterior cingulate cortex is evaluating relevance. Should I pay attention to them? All of this happens in approximately 100 milliseconds, 1/10 of a second, long before your conscious mind has processed a single thought about the person. Psychologist Nalini Ambati at Harvard University conducted groundbreaking research showing that people's snap judgments from just 2-second silent video clips of strangers were remarkably accurate and consistent with judgments formed after much longer exposure. She called these rapid unconscious assessments thin slices, and her research demonstrated that the human brain is extraordinarily powerful at extracting meaningful social information in almost no time at all. Your brain is not being superficial when it forms instant impressions. It is doing something incredibly sophisticated. It is just doing it faster than you realize. Now here is something that completely changes how most people think about first impressions. Research by psychologist Albert Mahavian found that when we form impressions of someone, the information comes through 3 distinct channels, and the breakdown might surprise you. 55% comes from body language, your posture, facial expressions, eye contact, and physical presence. 38% comes from your vocal qualities, your tone, pace, warmth, and confidence in your voice. And only 7% comes from the actual words you say. Let that sink in for a moment. 93% of the first impression you make in dating has nothing to do with what you actually say. This explains why you can meet someone, have a perfectly logical and intelligent conversation, and still walk away feeling like there was no chemistry. And it explains why someone else can say something completely ordinary and leave you feeling completely captivated. It was never really about the words. It was about the energy, the body language, and the voice behind those words. In dating, this means that before you spend hours perfecting your conversation topics, you should spend time understanding how your physical presence and vocal energy are landing on the people you meet. Let's zoom in on one of the most powerful tools in first impressions, eye contact. Research published in the journal Psychological Science found that eye contact is one of the single most powerful signals we send during a first meeting. It communicates confidence, interest, intelligence, and trustworthiness simultaneously. But here's the nuance. There is a significant difference between confident eye contact and uncomfortable staring. Studies show that the optimal amount of eye contact in a social interaction is approximately 60 to 70% of the conversation. Enough to signal genuine engagement and confidence, but with natural breaks that prevent the interaction from feeling intense or threatening. Psychologists at Aberdeen University in Scotland conducted a fascinating experiment where participants were shown faces making direct eye contact versus faces with averted gaze. Faces making direct eye contact were consistently rated as more attractive, regardless of their objective physical features. Eye contact also triggers a neurological response. When someone holds your gaze warmly, your brain releases a small amount of oxytocin, the bonding hormone. This is why meaningful eye contact can create an almost instant sense of connection with a complete stranger. In dating, learning to hold warm, confident, natural eye contact is one of the highest return investments you can make. Now let's talk about a cognitive bias that makes first impressions even more powerful than most people realize. The primacy effect. The primacy effect is a well-established psychological phenomenon where the first information we receive about someone disproportionately influences our overall perception of them, even when contradicted by later information. In a classic experiment by psychologist Solomon Asch, participants were given two descriptions of the same fictional person. Group A was told the person was intelligent, industrious, impulsive, critical, stubborn, and envious. Group B was given the exact same list, but in reverse order: envious, stubborn, critical, impulsive, industrious, and intelligent. Group A rated the person significantly more positively than Group B, even though both groups received identical information. The only difference was the order in which the information was presented. The first words, intelligent and industrious, created a positive filter through which all subsequent negative information was interpreted. In dating, this means that the first impression you create, in those opening 7 seconds, creates a psychological filter through which everything you do and say afterward will be interpreted. A strong positive first impression makes people more forgiving of your flaws. A weak or negative first impression makes people more suspicious of your strengths. This is not shallow psychology. This is how the human brain actually works. Now let's talk about the most common things that destroy first impressions in dating, because avoiding these is just as important as doing the right things. Mistake 1. Nervous self-focus. When we are anxious, we become hyper-focused on ourselves, how we look, what we are saying, whether we are being interesting enough. This inward focus actually makes us less present and less engaging. The most attractive first impressions come from genuine outward curiosity about the other person. Mistake 2. Incongruent body language. Saying confident words while displaying nervous body language, crossed arms, avoiding eye contact, slouched posture, creates a psychological dissonance that makes people unconsciously distrust you. Your body and your words need to tell the same story. Mistake 3. Trying too hard to impress. Research consistently shows that people who are overly eager to impress on a first meeting are rated as less attractive and less trustworthy. Psychological reactance. The human tendency to want what feels slightly out of reach means that a calm, grounded, non-desperate energy is significantly more attractive than overt effort to please. Mistake 4. Phone distraction. A study from the University of Essex found that simply having a phone visible on a table, even if not being used, significantly reduced the quality of interpersonal connection reported by both parties. Your phone is silently communicating that something else might be more important than the person in front of you. Mistake 5. Talking too much about yourself. Harvard neuroscientists discovered that talking about ourselves activates the same pleasure centers in the brain as food and money. This means most people love talking about themselves, and they associate the pleasure of that experience with whoever is listening. Asking great questions and being a genuinely interested listener is one of the most underrated first impression strategies in dating. So how do you actually make a first impression that someone cannot forget? First, own your entrance. The moment you walk into a space, before you say a single word, your posture and energy are already making an impression. Walk with your shoulders back, your head up, and your pace measured and calm. This signals confidence and presence before you open your mouth. Second, smile genuinely. Research distinguishes between a genuine Duchenne smile, which involves the muscles around your eyes, and a social performance smile. People unconsciously detect the difference in milliseconds. A genuine warm smile triggers oxytocin in both you and the person you're meeting. Third, use their name. Dale Carnegie famously said that a person's name is to them the sweetest sound in any language. Using someone's name warmly and naturally in conversation creates an immediate sense of personal connection and signals that they have your full attention. Fourth, be fully present. In a world of constant distraction, genuine, undivided presence is genuinely rare and genuinely attractive. Listen to respond thoughtfully, not just to wait for your turn to speak. Fifth, end on a high. Just as the primacy effect governs first impressions, the recency effect governs last impressions. How you end an interaction is almost as important as how you begin it. Leave while the energy is still positive and engaging. Never let the conversation drag until it runs out of steam. 7 seconds. That is all you have. And now you understand exactly what is happening in those 7 seconds and how to make every one of them count. First impressions in dating are not about being perfect. They are about being present, genuine, and psychologically aware of the signals you are sending before you say a single word. If this video gave you something valuable, please subscribe to Psychology of Love, because every week we bring you the real science behind human connection and relationships. Drop a comment below and tell me, what do you think is the single most important element of the first impression? I genuinely want to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.